Hello and welcome once again to another edition of Hude Hour right here on Hude Network. I am Amadine Ogbewe, and as usual, we're here to break down updates within the humanitarian and development space. It promises to be an interesting one.
And I am Joan Eze. Thank you for joining us. And also with us right now is Paul Oladipupo. Hi, Paul.
Good morning.
Hello,
How are you guys
Paul.
doing?
We're good.
And you?
It's good to see you guys. I didn't get a memo of purple.
Oh.
You should check your mail more often. So how's it going for you today?
Well, it's my favorite day of the week. I'm glad. I'm very happy.
Your
It's
favorite or
stubborn.
your second favorite day?
Second, thank you for reminding me. Second
right.
favorite. Exactly.
And
But
your
again,
favorite-
a favorite is always a favorite.
Mm.
Exactly. But
Anyway,
yes.
it's fair enough, fair enough. We have a number of issues to target today. We want to bring you some updates within the humanitarian and development space and take a look at what's being done, what the problems are, what the solutions are, and also just inform you generally about what's happening. Now, to our first news item of the day, the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, has revealed that Nigeria has the highest number of malnourished children in Africa, the second highest globally. Speaking during a media briefing on the 2025 Lean Season Response Plan for Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states, Nemat Hajbor, the UNICEF's Chief of Nutrition, disclosed that 600,000 children are currently suffering from acute malnutrition, with half at risk of progressing to severe acute malnutrition. She warned that children with severe acute malnutrition are up to 11 times more likely to die. Also speaking at the event, Sergeant Loom, the head of program at the World Food Program, highlighted that Nigeria has the largest number of food insecure individuals on the continent. The briefing, organized by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, comes as the agency appeals for $300 million to address the deepening food and nutrition crisis in Nigeria's conflict-affected Northeast. Tron Jensen, the OCHA's head of office in Nigeria, stated that $160 million is urgently needed to cover essentials like food security, nutrition, water and sanitation, health and logistics during the lean season. He said the agency is targeting 2 million people this year and appealed to state governments and international partners to support the response efforts. The lean season typically heightens food insecurity in Nigeria's northeast, where conflict and displacement have compounded humanitarian challenges. Well, the lean season, that period between May and August, in between harvest and planting, ordinarily, we've seen that historically leads to a little bit of scarcity, a little bit of lack. So it's just as we've always known the age-old farming practices in agriculture, where you prepare for that period. You know that in this point in time, we have to stock up to prepare for that time. We have it, some versions in other countries where people also prepare for winter, especially in ancient times, where you salt your meats, you ensure that you preserve your food items, because during this period, we're going to have a little bit of lean period. Now, why it's particularly alarming in this aspect now is that the other issues, the underlying issues, the insecurity is adding to this. Some farmers didn't even have the opportunity to plant in the first place, talk less of now
saving.
Yes, the period where you are waiting for harvest.
Yeah.
You don't even have expectation of things to harvest. And I think that's what the urgent call for funding is about, that let us not pretend as though we don't know what's coming. I mean, we're already in May. So in a way, we're already into the period where fighting again. So you see where it says urgent need of $160 million and so on and so forth. So I think it's something that calls to concern. And we're seeing that it's not just calling on random people to fund. We're talking about international bodies, talking about the government itself, working hand in hand to ensure that whatever funding does come, we see that it is utilized, and all these persons, the children, who might suffer from this, get to be rescued.
11 lives, thousands, millions of children are dying even before the lean season. Children are dying out of malnutrition. And I keep talking about this, that malnutrition is something that needs to be kicked out if possible. Action needs to be taken to make sure that children are being fed well. This lean period is a critical period for Nigerians. And if fast actions are not taken, a lot of people are going to go down the line. So for the international organization to spot this, to say, okay, there is a problem coming up and we need to raise an alarm, to raise funds, the $300 million that needs to be sent to Nigeria, and also the urgent amount as well, is very important. And apart from that, before this whole fund, it is very important that malnutrition as a whole, as a topic, as a particular menace, need to be wiped off, because a lot of, especially the Bay states, that's the Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe, these are the people in the northeast that are literally going through this particular phase. And the earlier, the better it is for me.
Well, you all have actually talked so nice on this topic actually, and it's wonderful to see how all of these things happen. Well, lean season is not just a Nigerian thing; it happens in the Sahel region basically. I know that Sudan also faces theirs from April down to August. But the interesting thing to say about all of this and the news item is the fact that already there has been plan put in place at the moment. I mean, Mohammed Malik of the UN. That's the residential and also humanitarian coordinator of Nigeria here, has already launched a plan titled 2025 Nigerian Lean Season Plan. And the plan is a multi-sectoral plan that involves all sectors basically. And what's the whole goal of the plan is just to lay out the action of each of these sectors, the nutrition sector, food security, even education as well, talking about how to train teachers on how to help these children who are going through all of these things. And also there's even logistics as well, in trying to ensure that there's always there's means of transportation to get food to all of these places. And just like you have also mentioned, that these places are torn down through a number of insecurities already. Yeah, we have insecurities there, bombing here, this attack there and that attack there. These places are already ravaged with all of this, and now they're facing these issues. And I think we should also point out to the fact that lean season is not the main issue here, actually. It's the fact that these people don't have nice security of food already in these regions, in the sense that most of those in these environments feed from hand to mouth. Basically, it's whatever they farm, they are able to eat, and once that is exhausted, they have to wait for another harvest season again.
I think the key word there is the uncertainty,
Exactly.
that they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. So it's quite unfortunate.
And also, the cascading effects of this is that, especially for the girl child, you see families who can't feed. The next thing they do is find a child or two to trade.
Exactly.
It's a particular problem that's also highlighted at that press briefing at the unveiling of that plan to tackle the lean period. That is not just about the fact that you could actually lose your life due to malnutrition, but we're also seeing some human rights abuses coming under this. And again, the first target usually is the girl child, you know, and then we see them being traded for food and all of that. So it really highlights why there's an urgency here.
Exactly.
And also, something we've tried not to, I think we've been skirting around so far. It's not good news for Nigeria specifically to be in that position at this point.
Exactly.
Especially when you take into account that on paper, Nigeria is not a war-torn nation on paper, really. So, and then you have countries who are actually having intense strained conflicts, still managing. So it calls to mind that urgency is there and things need to be done immediately.
Thank you. Yeah, wonderfully said. Let's take a look at our verified voices and see what verified voices are saying on this particular matter. First off, on our verified voices is from the UN, and they're saying at the moment that this is UNOCHA Nigeria. They're saying early preparation is vital for reducing the lean season's impact on vulnerable communities in the Northeast. With your support, humanitarians can provide life-saving assistance. Act now to prevent an humanitarian crisis. Hashtag remember NE Nigeria, that's Northeast Nigeria. And then it goes on with an infographics there saying, in 2025, an estimated 4.6 million people are projected to experience critical levels of food insecurity in Borno, Adamawa, and also Yobe states. We'll take the next tweet quickly right there, and then we'll probably discuss on that quickly as well. This is also from United States, Nigeria, United Nations, Nigeria, pardon me. This is saying that 159.32 million US dollars is required immediately for urgent food assistance, nutrition support, emergency health, water and sanitation, hygiene, protection, intervention for 2 million people with the most severe needs. And they're specifying their women and also children. One of the things that the action plan is ought to do, is to provide assistance in kind and also in cash. And that's why we are seeing large amount of money here and there. So it's not just about providing food for them so that they are able to eat, but also giving them sometimes cash transfer in cases where cash is needed. I mean, you mentioned the issue of human trafficking. Sometimes it's not just because they don't have what to eat, that's why they are doing that. It's also because they do not have money at hand at that moment, because it's not just only food that you need to survive.
Purchasing power,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean,
At the end of the day.
even going further, we've spoken to people in the sector who say that sometimes when you see a lot of people in the internally displaced camps, they're not even asking for money. They're just asking for access to their farms.
Yes.
So sometimes you realize that while we need urgent help to ensure that malnutrition doesn't lead to more deaths, we also need more concerted long-term plans so that people can just go and farm for themselves. They don't want, at the end of the day, a typical human being with dignity doesn't need you to feed them.
Exactly.
They want you to just allow them the opportunity to do it for
Give
themselves.
them their freedom.
You mentioned camps, and it just reminded me of the plan as well, because part of that also was mentioned there, in the sense that one of the things that should be done is site management, ensure that all of those in the camps are not also vulnerable in times like this.
All right, thank you so much. As we look forward to the loans, the money that is coming, not the loans, we expect it to go to the Northeast. Let's just reach everybody very, very well, so that we all come out from this. We move to the next news item we have. The African Development Bank Group has approved a 26.5 million euros financing package to support the construction of a 62 megawatt peak solar photovoltaic power plant in Sokode, Togo, a major step toward advancing the country's renewable energy goals. The financing includes 18.5 million euro in loans from the bank and 8 million euros from the Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, CFA. The 61 million euro project will also receive co-financing from Proparco, the French development financing agency, marking a strong example of public-private sector collaboration. Set to produce 87 gigawatt hours of electricity annually, the plant will deliver clean and affordable energy to local communities, enhance energy reliability, and reduce carbon emissions by an estimated 13,600 tons each year. The initiative supports Togo's ambition to install 200 megawatt peak of renewable energy capacity by 2030 and achieve universal electricity access. Kevin Kariuki, Vice President for Power, Energy, Climate and Green Growth at the African Development Bank, described the project as a landmark achievement that aligns with Togo's M300 Energy Compact and the bank's Light Up and Power Africa strategy. The plant to be developed by Meridiam will also include an 11-kilometer transmission line beyond contributing to climate goals under the Paris Agreement. The project is expected to boost local economic growth and attract more clean energy investments to the region. This is what we're talking about, growth in the renewable sector, in the clean energy. We've been talking about how countries, how we can transit from the fossil fuels that is causing more damage to the climate change or climate space to a renewable energy where we can adopt the whole new energy. And this is what the AfDB is doing for Togo right now. And for me, I see it as a good step that they have taken to, first of all, access to electricity, where the Togolese can now have a cheaper way they can access electricity. And also, it will also boost their manufacturing sector, their industrialization, and their agricultural sector as well. So when there is electricity, I believe that we all know that there is a good things that can actually go on. That is what we really, really know. So I think that's a very, very good step there.
Well, you see, it's wonderful to see, and it's a lovely sight, I must say. And kudos to African Development Bank there for what they are doing. I would love to start off that this is part of their project, Light Up and Power Africa. And the whole goal of this is to ensure that the number of those without access to electricity increases. And this is a good development that is going on now in Togo. I also love to point out that it's nice to see that we are not focusing on non-green source of energy. I mean, this is green, it's good for the environment, it's not harming the environment, and this is more innovations like this, more things like this I want to see in our communities, especially here in Africa. Already, we're not emitting so much into the environment at the moment, but it's important that we do not have to create more energy sources that would inflict our environment, and that's one. And also in terms of creation of jobs, it's wonderful to say that we're expecting a number of people to have jobs from all of this. I mean, even after installation of all of these things here, we should be expecting probably a team of operation and also maintenance team here. And with that here, there's more. There are more jobs for the people of Togo. And also, we should also be expecting foreign investments. Because again, with more energy comes more investments. Exactly. Yeah. And even in-house as well, there are more people. And also, I think it's also one way or the other helps the small-scale business as well, because with cheaper access to electricity, you can venture into other things. And additionally, you could also decide to stay a longer time even after dark. Indeed. Because I know that in some areas where you likely not see lights, that's a power supply. Yeah, it's expected that you see people close early. Once it's getting dark, people begin to close. But if there's lights, stable lights, basically, you see more people. And again, with stable lights comes new innovations, actually. More people, exactly, more productivity. And even school children as well, in terms of education, they're even able to read for longer times, even after dark at the end of the day.
Indeed. And I think part of this also shows, what you've described now, shows the confidence to make such investments. And the structure of it, I think, is one of the most impressive things here. We are seeing a multi-pronged approach where there's the private sector, even the government has involvement in this, and the loans are sort of spread in, divided in such a way that when it's time for repayment, it will also come through in that very structured process. Now, to add to that, it says that there's an expectation of economic growth. And I think that, again, shows the reason for the confidence, because when we say renewable energy, when people and organizations and mega corporations and international organizations like the AfDB put their so much amount of money into this, it suggests to people that it's not all a fad, it's something real, because we are putting money there.
Exactly.
If it was something that we expected to fail, we wouldn't take such risk. And that being said, that confidence means that they are so sure that when this comes true, we're going to get, returns, and it's all going to come back at the end of the day. Which just goes to show you at the end of the day, what we do here every day about sustainable development goals is that if the development is sustainable, it will pay back its returns.
Exactly.
Even when we see with health, where we say you don't have to spend so much money treating yourself, when we can all come together and have solutions on how to ensure that you don't get sick in the first place. And at the end of the day, you've saved money, you can now invest, you have to, other things to do. So with renewable energy, you are getting economic growth. At the same time, your environment is not dying. You're not paying that sunk cost later, where you have to wonder what has happened to my ozone layer, how has it changed the climate, the weather, the food, and all of that. So it all cascades and comes together. And I think it's a good way to show that collaborations across different areas can lead to something that could work well.
It's very important that we stress the fact that investing in power, in energy, is one...
In clean energy,
in clean energy as well, is one thing that that your return on investment is very sure. Because there's no way, one way or the other, to impact the economy one way or the other. I mean, look at Togo, for example. They're looking at the more promising future ahead once all of this is put in place. And that is more of these things that we want to see in our communities.
And I'll just add also, take the example of like Tanzania, where whenever funds like this come in, there's usually like a third party or who is not part of the government or part of this that monitors how this monies are
more like audits,
spent.
basically.
So at the end of the day, because let's not go into some other issues that happen on the international scene now. But when questions arise about how was this spent, there's
always accountability.
Yes, an independent body to be able to follow up.
I just wanted to add just a lighter note, speaking of collaborations and confidence of people investing, because we have the concessions loans where the loans are lenient. People don't really expect back, just like the way we know the typical loans that when you give out loans, the interest come back. But in this kind of situation, the loans are given, but they are not really expecting a higher rate because they know what they are investing in. So I think everybody goes home smiling at the end of the day.
I mean, low interest rates is what she's trying to talk about. And I think those are the things I want to see actually in terms of the development. Okay, let's take a look at our verified voices as well and see what they are saying on this particular one. We're taking one from the International Renewable Energy Agency, that is IRENA. Let's see what they are saying right there as regards this topic. This is also a very interesting one with a different perspective, talking about public and also private investment and also collaboration. Yes, they are saying that the global commitment to reach 11.2 TWO of renewable energy by 2030 demands urgent action. Governments must intensify efforts to ensure that investments flow where they are most needed without mobilizing significant financing now. The path to a sustainable energy future remains uncertain. Key enablers: tripling renewable power and also doubling energy efficiency, finance. And then it's broken down into two there, which is saying increase public and private financing and also access to low-cost financing in developing world. And I think this just breaks all of these things that we're talking down into bits. That it's important that we take the money to where it's most needed and also try to ensure that it is well developed there. We don't just spend huge money without evidence, basically, as you always said, but there should be evidence of what is spent. What is spent should equate to the results that we have on ground at the end of the day. And I think that's what they're pointing out, that it's important that even as we are throwing money here and throwing money there, we should also ensure that at the end of the day, whatever is put into a particular place has a result, and even better, even it has a result that even equates more than in some cases, than what was put inside.
Indeed, I think also it highlights the urgency once again and the target. It's always good in the development space to remind ourselves 2030.
Exactly, the target, exactly.
And if we don't, we might lose track of things. And that's how we'll go on a break. We'll end this right here for now. We'll go on a break, and when we return, we'll delve into our final news item from the humanitarian and development space to catch you up to speed with what's going on right now across the world. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And now we'll be delving into our final news item of the day, which has to do with health, and particularly human rights abuse and human rights protection as regards to female genital mutilation, and some new information from the WHO. Now, the World Health Organization has raised alarm over the growing trend of female genital mutilation being performed by healthcare professionals, despite global efforts to eliminate the practice. According to new data released on Monday, an estimated 52 million women and girls, that's about 1 in 4 FGM cases globally, were caught by trained health workers as of 2020. While the overall prevalence of FGM has declined significantly since 1990, the medicalization of the practice is posing new dangers. WHO's Director for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Research, Dr. Pascal Alote, said the health workers must be agents for change rather than perpetrators of this harmful practice, calling FGM a severe violation of girls' rights. WHO warned that when health workers perform FGM, it can result in more severe physical trauma under the guise of medical safety. The organization emphasized that the practice causes lasting mental and physical harm, regardless of who performs it. FGM remains widespread in 30 countries with around 4 million girls at risk each year. To combat this, WHO has released updated guidelines aimed at strengthening healthcare responses and improving support for survivors across their lifespans. The agency called on governments, medical professionals, and communities to intensify efforts to eradicate FGM and ensure survivors receive quality care. But first, I think I should commend the WHO for lack of a better word, exposing this. And I think for me, the part that it gets a bit to me when I say that the most educated set of people can still display, high levels of ignorance. If there's anybody who is well trained to know that FGM, female genital mutilation, is a human rights abuse, has no medical, no benefits whatsoever to the girl child, it is expected to be a trained health professional.
Yes.
So when we see what WHO is referring to now as the medicalization of FGM, it's even more worrying. I'm a little bit more scared because when you tell me someone who did not have access to school, who grew up on the law of the community, that this is what happens when you don't do this thing and all of that, you can understand that we understand where the gap is. We understand where the problem is here. And we can fix it. But when I hear that you went through the 4 walls of a structured school, and then you went to secondary school,
You went
and then
for
you
your
went
professional
to the
training as
university,
well.
and then you have possibly a license to practice in one form or another, and you went through all these phases, and you still ended up with the idea that this is a practice that is okay. And on the flip side, so based on what WHO is saying, they are not necessarily saying that those who carried out this action believed in it. Someone who is ignorant can then come and pay
them.
I don't want to mention a particular profession. Let's just say healthcare workers.
Yeah, of course.
You then pay them and say, help me do this. And then you have no moral right to say that, well, I don't believe in it. I'm just doing it because I was asked to do it.
Yes.
It's still, at the end of the day, abuse.
Well, you see, let's flip this thing back a bit. Let's go back to the genesis. I mean, FGM is as far back as was recorded back over 2,000 years ago, and it's not just in Africa. Basically, that happened in most likely all of the most continents. Yeah, I know of the UK, the US as well. Sometimes in the 1990s, and also if you should trace down history, you see also ancient Egypt as well. Their mummies were found to be mutilated, and now the reason is they see it as a way to chastise the woman so that she's humble, she's loyal to her partner, so that she's legible for marriage, basically. And I think it also is important that we clear the notion that it is related to a particular religion. But it's not. It doesn't have any
It
religion.
cuts across
Exactly.
religions and cultures.
Exactly. It's cuts across cultures, cut across religions, cut across societies. Well, at the moment now, there are still 30 countries that are still practicing this particular art, specifically in Asia, the Middle East, and also Africa. And that's what we're talking about. Now, down to the healthcare workers who are doing all of these things here. It is really sad to see that someone who is well educated, not just well educated, took the Hippocratic oaths, is doing all of this. Because at the end of the day, you're inflicting harm on these people. You are taking away something that is a part of their body, basically. You are cutting it away, and you're causing harm on them. You're causing trauma, you're causing pain on these persons. And it's really sad to see that all of these things is happening even in this well-educated society that we find ourselves. And also, we should also know that there's also, I think this is where the government has their own role to play as well, that there are some countries that have passed laws banning all of these arts. Like a number of them have already passed the law. And we should see that more countries actually put this into law. I think all of these healthcare workers that we're talking about as well, their license should be revoked and collected back from them because they have no business. Because already they have gone against the oath that they took. And already it's reason enough that their license is withdrawn from them and revoked immediately.
Indeed.
Well, I'm so speechless, even though I don't want to be. It's a very, very bad thing to hear,
Yes,
to see, and to feel at the same time, because it's not done to me, but I don't know, there's an appeal that I feel connected because it's my gender, and people that are being done to these particular ill acts,
yes.
children from 11 to 15 and even above. And you see people that
sometimes even grown women, because it's
Yeah.
also seen as something to make you as a passage to marriage,
for you
basically.
to be faithful.
Exactly.
Well, it's
Some also feel they are reducing immorality
Exactly.
or the need for that, which is not based in any form of science.
it doesn't make sense to me. FGM is not something that is good. It should be banned. It has been banned, and there should be, just the way we advocate for good health, for access to water, access to electricity. We should also advocate for the banning of FGM.
Exactly.
You know, in every sphere, in every place, in every country, let everybody understand that female genital mutilation is a crime, is an abuse on the woman. It's not something that we should accept in any way. So I'm not really.
In one of the articles I read, I also noticed that it's when the colonial masters came into Africa. That's one of the things that they tried banning, and then it had a very huge ripple effect on them, and they had to hands off it. But I mean, since the 1990s, we've had female movements trying to advocate for all of these things. Now talking about advocacy. Also, I think in 1979, the WHO also had their first seminar as regards this particular topic, female gender mutilation. And I think what is left for us now is to see more countries banning this particular art and ensuring that this particular art is not perpetrated. And I think the perpetrators as well should also be brought to book.
I just want to just really add a little thing. This is like going to be a wake-up call, because you made a statement very, very important there. Because an organization as big as WHO can actually conceal this because it's related to health and say, okay, let's protect our health workers, you know. But now they've exposed it, and these are the people that they've seen. There are people that are doing this that they've not been seen or they've not been caught. So this is like a wake-up call to those ones that are doing it. We are coming for you, and if you don't stop it right now, you'll be caught and you face the wrath of the law.
Exactly.
That's it.
Let's take a look at our verified voices from the United Nations volunteer, West Africa, and also Central Africa. They have a tweet there talking about this particular topic here, where we're talking on female gender mutilation. Let's see what they are saying on this particular topic right there. It says in 2025, more than 4.4 million girls, that's about 12,200 every day, are at risk of female gender mutilation. In Ghana, UNICEF UN volunteer Sumi is on the ground protecting the girls and their family, fighting to end FGM, child marriage, and also trafficking. Hashtag zero tolerance. And I think that's the word there. There shouldn't be any tolerance for these things. And it just popped up in my head that there are actually some people who are even fighting for the medicalization of this particular art. And it's really sad to see that people are even fighting for that in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's also important that we should note that although there are ethical blur lines in this particular art here, it is still wrong. It goes against the Hippocratic art of do no harm in the real sense of things. And also, finally, I think it's also important that you should also stress that FGM has no health benefits. So it has nothing. It cures no disease. It prevents no disease.
But it destroys.
Exactly, it destroys, and all it does is to cause pain at the end of the day. And that is what Sumi there in Ghana is fighting for, to ensure that we don't have all of this.
Indeed, and the problems do even lead to psychological aspects. People think it's just physical, but other than that, there are implications to mutilating a woman or a young girl in that way that will eventually show up in the long run. And also that aside,
there's no one showing up in the long run, because whoever is mutilated lives with it all her life, and she experiences that pain and also the trauma all her life. Even when they get married and they begin to have sexual intercourse here, they experience, in fact, it's always painful for them all the days of their life.
Indeed, and those are part of the issues we're talking about, and why the concerted effort to at least in the very at least protect the health space from, it's a place where you expect people to run to for protection rather than to be getting these. And then also speaking about the health workers being involved in this, again, one of the things we should also see is that the knowledge that we get from science, from development, should buttress what happens culturally. So there's this divide where people believe that the medical aspects, well, that's for you, that's for the Western nation,
exactly.
And we have our own. It's fine to be proud of your culture, but culture is made for man. The man was not made for culture. When you have cultural practices that do not in any way uplift or help and are even rather harming and destroying your people, you discard it. You cannot be controlled by rules that were made when you were not even alive, or when even your parents were not even alive, so to speak.
I think we should also stress the fact that culture evolves, and that's the point of culture. Culture is very dynamic. It's possible to change. I mean, the bad cultures, will drop them and also pick up the good ones, and also boast of it, be proud of all of those cultures. And that's the point of culture.
I think at this point, I still want to go back to the health workers, that they are seen as opinion leaders. They shouldn't be perpetrators, because we are trying to build that trust that the people should have with the medical team, the professionals, the health workers. Now, they are trying to, with this particular act, if a layman watches this or hears this news, he can be his whole hope can be destroyed immediately, and saying, okay, there's no even point of trusting the health sector anymore. So this is a clarion call to the health workers that you should be an opinion leader. You should be a savior out there to help them understand that FGM is a crime. It's not supposed to be a cultural act. And also, they should also help to protect lives and not to destroy lives.
Yeah, I would love to read this final statement from WHO. It says, FGM cannot be made safe. It should not be medicalized. It must be abandoned completely. That's from WHO.
That's a great way to end the program right there. And that's indeed how we do end it today. We've been bringing you updates in the humanitarian and development space. And that's what we do here on Hude Hour. We also highlight specific topics to break down those issues with people within the space who are well versed in that matter. Do join us next time. We come to you once again Wednesday by 8 a.m. As always, I am Amadin Obewe. Bye for now.
And I am Jo Oneze. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.
And I'm Paul Olatupo. Thanks for joining.